meeting in order. Those who care to, please stand for opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. Mr. Cameron, if you would.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and just thank you for all you do for us. And Lord, I pray for your wisdom and guidance tonight. I just pray for this country, and I pray for your guidance and direction for our leaders and for us tonight in this meeting. Guide us and lead us in all we do. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For Mayor's announcements, Mr. Dyckman.
Yes.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
You're here tonight.
Yes.
On your anniversary, thank you. On the public hearing, at this time I'd like to open a public hearing of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri regarding setting 2017 property tax levies for the City of Republic, Missouri. Mrs. Parks, would you give us a brief overview, please?
Yes, good evening, Council. Every year we set a prop tax levy. This public hearing is for the 2017 property tax levy for the City of Republic. We collect 3 property tax levies, one for the general fund, one for Parks and Recreation, and the third is street lighting. Every August, the State Auditor's Office, as well as Greene County and Christian County Assessors, provide the assessed valuation of the city and property taxes. The State Auditor then approves the rate that is proposed. The city assesses valuations and for the total year of 2017 have increased by 4.9% or $8,726,752. The valuations for new construction are subtracted out of the total assessment and the valuations to make the adjusted assessed values. The state statute RSMO 137.073.2 states that the tax rate ceiling may be revised to produce substantially the same amount of the tax levy every year. So in a sense, the city is not allowed to benefit from the additional property that we build every year. So in this case, we actually had to decrease our tax levy for the 2017 year. The tax rate will decrease by 0.0176 to be a total of 61 cents, 0.6197 cents to offset the gain in property. Basically, Greene and Christian counties value the property, they mail the statements, they collect the taxes for the city. We do not do that here at the city. So because of this, Christian retains a 4% fee and Greene County retains a 3% fee. So overall, the 2017 levy that proposed at this public hearing is for the general revenue 0.4354 to bring in a total for our budget of $653,493 to the general fund. For the Parks and Rec department, it's 0.1173 for a total of $175,440. For the street and lights, it's 0.067 or $102,000 in revenue. This levy is required by state law to be set by council and then to be certified by the city clerk and also then returned to the state auditor's office by September 1st. That is why we are asking for an emergency measure tonight to be passed. Just so you know that every year we get the assessments late. In fact, today we got the official mailed copy. When I did the newspaper ad, it was in the Springfield News Leader for the public hearing. I used formulas to come with a guesstimate of what our assessed value would be since we didn't have the approved amount, and those ran at a higher rate. So since we advertise higher than what we're setting it, that counts as our public hearing. So the citizen would be happy to know the rate is actually a little bit less than was advertised. So if you will approve it tonight, we will be able to certify it and to meet our statutory requirements by September 1st.
Thank you, Ms. Parks.
Thank you.
At this time, anybody wishing to speak against this issue, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, at this time, anybody who would like to speak for this item, please step to the podium, give your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. The next public hearing that we'll open is a public hearing of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately .41 acres owned by George Carden located at 412 U.S. Highway 60 West. Mr. Tyson, would you give us an overview, please?
Yes, I will. This particular application proposes to change the zoning classification of 412 U.S. Highway 60 West from the medium-density, single-family residential zoning district to the local commercial zoning district. The site presently contains a single-family dwelling that is currently used to residential dwelling. If this application or proposed rezone is approved, the property will then be allowed to be used for any use that is expressly permitted within that local commercial district. A list of those permitted uses is included in your packet this evening. Staff is recommending approval of this application as it does conform to the city's future land use plan. Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this application at their hearing, and their findings, I believe, are included in your packet as well.
Thank you, sir.
And actually, I'm sorry, they're not included. I just got the look, sorry. But they did recommend approval.
Thank you. At this time, if anyone is present would like to speak against this item, please step to the podium, give your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, anyone would like to speak for this item, please step to the podium, give us your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Aaron Lyons. I'm an attorney. I practice law at 3337 Eastview in Springfield, and I represent the applicant owner. And we believe that C1 zoning is appropriate for this property. It's certainly consistent with the uses in the area. In the adjoining properties, there's a Dollar General retail store, dog grooming, insurance agent's office, a law office. To the west, there's a plumbing company and a t-shirt screen printing company. And across the street, there's a church, and a little bit to the east is the large shopping center that has 23 retail businesses. And it is, in fact, consistent with the land use plan for the City of Republic. And for those reasons, we think it's appropriate, and we would respectfully request a change in zoning to Z1, and I'll be happy to answer any questions any of you may have.
Any questions from council? None? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for this item, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. Next item, a public hearing of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 1.80 acres owned by Terry McConnell, located at 5976 West Farm Road 164. Mr. Tyson.
It's the application pertaining to this public hearing proposes to rezone 1.8 acres from the agricultural zoning district into the light industrial manufacturing zoning district. Site is located at 5976 West Farm Road 164, and there's an illustration of that included in your packet. Staff is recommending approval of this application. Planning and Zoning Commission also voted unanimously to recommend approval.
Thank you, sir. At this time, anyone wishing to speak against this item, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak for this item, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Terry McConnell. I reside at 5493 West Schuyler Drive, Springfield, Missouri. I am the property owner. I'm looking to switch that from the agriculture zone that it is at the 1.8 acres to the M1 light commercial. I own a propane company which is now located in Nixa, Missouri, and I'm looking to first put a bulk 60,000 gallon propane tank there to fill our bobtails out of on a daily basis, and then as we move down the road, my growth, I would like to be able to move my business from Nixa to Republic. And I'd like to answer any questions you have.
Any questions from council? No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak for this item, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. On to citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Jim Arnott, 1000 Boonville, commonly known as the jail, my home address. Council and Mayor, I want to stop by and tell you how much I appreciate you all supporting us in our jail issues. I can't tell you enough how great your police chief is. He's a true team player and actually came forward to try to help us solve a situation. But I want to give you an update of where we're at today. We have 791 inmates in today, so that's about 190 inmates more than we should have. However, I was able to get some more space in other county jails across the state, so we're hovering around basically our capacity at the county and our capacity out, and so we are not going to move forward with what we call the Republic plan at this time, but we do have it in the background. The chief and I communicate regularly, so when we're going to implement that, we will definitely give you some heads up. And like I said, I can't tell you enough how good it was you guys came to our need when we needed it. Is there any questions that I can maybe answer for you all on what's going on at the jail or otherwise?
Any questions for Council for Sheriff Arnott? No?
All right.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you all. Just wanted to stop by and say hi and appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Seeing none, citizen participation is closed. Need a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Make sure we have it. On to old business. I'm sorry, we have no old business. We'll go on to new business. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 17-29.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Mr. Tyson just presented us this through a public hearing. Anybody have any questions for, I'm sorry, we need to have the reading.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 0.41 acres owned by George Carden, located at 412 U.S. Highway 60 West.
Mr. Tyson just presented. Do we have any questions from Mr. Tyson regarding what was presented? Mr. Tyson, anything you need to add?
Nothing in particular. This one is, from staff's perspective, fairly straightforward. Commercial zoning proposal has frontage on U.S. Highway 60, which is obviously a primary arterial thoroughfare here in the city, has immediate access to water and sanitary sewer, both of capacity to support commercial development, and the land use plan recommends that commercial development is appropriate at this particular site. So staff and P&Z are both recommending approval.
Okay. Any questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Tyson? Mr. Self?
I will just say that, when you look at a situation as far as, business and the business community, that anytime you have Highway 60 frontage and you have the land, that it follows the land use plan, that's definitely a plus. I appreciate you bringing it forward, but I really don't see, it's pretty straightforward, like you said, so makes it easy.
Mr. Wilson?
In the NZ meeting, one of the principals stated that the house is a rental, but it has a basement that is concrete block and it stays damp all the time. So when these people move out, they're not going to re-rent it because of the basement problem.
Anything else? Okay, remember this first read. If you have any questions, please give Mr. Tyson. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 17-30.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0, Ms. Brenda.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 1.80 acres owned by Terry McConnell, located at 5976 West Farm Road 164.
Mr. Tyson, anything further you can add to?
Sure. Yeah, I'll elaborate on some of the same lines that I did on the last one. With regard to transportation, this one is a slightly different situation in that it does not enjoy the frontage on the U.S. highway. It enjoys access directly from West Farm Road 164, which is located very close to U.S. Highway 60 from a transportation perspective, but it is merely an unimproved farm road. So there is that situation to consider. That farm road is, in its current condition, not suitable long-term for substantial industrial or commercial development. This site being only 1.8 acres, staff's opinion is that this is not of a scale that it would generate enough traffic to warrant a recommendation against the application. MoDOT is also currently constructing some improvements at this intersection of Farm Road 164 that will also help that particular situation. Something else unique about this particular site is it does enjoy access to the sanitary sewer system, but it does not enjoy immediate access to the municipal water system. What that means is that prior to any development occurring, the developer will need to extend water to the site. It is located between 700 and 800 feet from the frontage where it's at right now. So the city does not presently have any funds programmed to do that extension, so those costs would be borne by the developer. From a land use perspective, the city's future land use plan does recommend that industrial use is appropriate at this particular location. And so for that reason, staff is recommending the approval of the application. As I mentioned earlier, Planning and Zoning Commission is all recommending approval.
Questions, comments, concerns from Mr. Tyson? Mr. Wilson?
He brought out the fact that there'd probably be approximately 2 trucks, tractor trailers a week deliver fuel, and that they would be required to come from the west going east. So therefore, the improvements that MoDOT is making, there wouldn't be any problems with them pulling over and right onto the road. Plus, there's tractor trailers that goes to the electrical.
The city utilities.
Yes, there you go.
A lot of semi-tractor trailers.
So 2 more wouldn't make that much difference.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, well, this is the first read as well, so if you have any questions, anything comes up, please get with Mr. Tyson. On to motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 17-31.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Mr. Tyson, I'm sorry, Ms. Brenda.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the execution of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement between the city and Greene County to allow the Greene County Collector to collect delinquent nuisance abatement costs by placing said costs on real property tax bills.
Thank you. Mr. Tyson.
Yes, I'm actually glad the sheriff was here tonight to talk about the relationship between the city and Greene County. That's a relationship that I know in the community development department we value very much. I think I can speak for all of staff in saying that that's a great partnership that continues to improve. On that note, for a number of years, the city has been in a position where we have been very hesitant to go out and abate nuisances using city funds. And the reason for that has been that there was simply no reliable way to be assured that we would be able to collect those funds, be reimbursing the property owner for having to perform that abatement with the funds of the community. It was said for a number of years that the reason for this was because Greene County would simply not allow it. But after Mr. Cameron arrived, the decision was made we should reopen that conversation. And what we discovered was that there was a very willing partner on the other end there. And so the Greene County Collector, Leah Betts, has helped us to craft this amendment to a 1998 agreement that pertains to the collection of real estate taxes. What this amendment to the agreement will do is it will put the city in a position to submit a list of uncollected abatement charges that we have throughout the year, submit those to the county collector, and then they will place those charges on the real estate tax bill so that they can be collected through that procedure, giving us a reliable way of collecting those charges if we cannot collect them ourselves. They will in essence become a part of that real estate tax bill. So this is a really good thing from our perspective. It'll give us more confidence that we will get reimbursement, which will give us a little bit more confidence in going out and performing some of these abatements when they are needed in the community. So overall, I think it's a really good thing, and I'm very thankful to the Collector's Office for helping us put together. And I'll say this, the Greene County Commission has already approved the agreement. So this is the last step.
Okay. Any questions, discussion for Mr. Tyson?
Great job.
Seeing none. First read. Give Mr. Tyson, you have any questions? Thank you, sir. Need a motion and a second for the first reading of bill number 17-3.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Ms. Britton.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, setting the 2017 property tax levies for the City of Republic, Missouri.
Thank you, Ms. Parks.
As we heard earlier at the public hearing, we're setting the 2017 property tax levies. And the great news is the city's property assessments has increased by $8,726,752, or 4.9%. What this translates into, though, is a reduction in our levy rate of 0.0176 to a total of 0.6197. This offsets so that the citizens aren't seeing a huge increase, but basically our revenue source stays steady. So just a breakdown real quick, the general revenue is 0.4354, the Parks and Rec is 0.173, the Streets and Lights is 0.0670. We are asking for an emergency read, just a reminder that this is due to the State Auditor's Office by September 1st. Just the way that the assessment offices work, the information gets to us later. Unfortunately, they're working to change it, but that's the system we're working in right now. And in your agenda packets, you will see the complete breakdown of the assessed values from Greene County and from Christian County, as well as all the calculation sheets that the state auditor provides and that we work with to come up with the assessed values. If this is approved tonight as an emergency measure, we will go ahead and certify it and send it off to the state auditor so that we're in compliance by September 1st. And as I mentioned in the public hearing a few minutes ago, we did advertise in the Springfield News Leader, and we had a public hearing as required by state statute.
Okay. Having that in mind, in order to stay on time, I would entertain a motion in a second to pass the ordinance as an emergency measure.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 6-0. Now I need a motion and a second for approval of the ordinance.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Call vote.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Ms. Parks. Okay, on to resolutions. Resolution number 17-R-68, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, rejecting all responses to the city's request for qualifications for worker compensation and property and liability brokerage services. Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, what we found is each year for the last 3 years, the city's been spending about $30,000 a year to have someone basically broker these services. And so just evaluating and talking with Councilmember Self and other people that are in the insurance business, just to look at what benefits are we really gaining from having these services in general, and to be paying $30,000 a year to get them, and to see how much work that Connie was doing in our office to work on getting the claims handled and things of that nature. We're asking to reject those bids, and basically in an effort to save the $30,000 a year, and to evaluate it again after a year to see if there's anything that we missed or anything that's not there, but I'm just not sure. We're recognizing the value of $30,000 a year in the budget for what it's costing us for what we're getting. And so essentially we're asking for those to be rejected, and basically handle those, because we've been pretty much handling the claims our own with our workers' comp and outside insurance. And so I just ask for your consideration to reject these bids, and we'll recognize the savings, and again, we'll evaluate it in a year to see if what the cost benefit is.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or discussion for Mr. Cameron? Council?
If you're doing it mainly in-house, then it makes more sense anyway, so that's, again, a service, so.
It's a lot of money, and I'd like to, if I take $30,000 somewhere, I'd like to see what I'm getting in return. And it's hard to quantify. It's like we did with the same with our IT, is we're trying to quantify what we're getting in value. So we'll give us a chance to look at it. But Connie's doing a lot of that already, and so is our staff, the HR side. So
And we're completely confident we can handle it.
I am, because I've not seen anything where we've actually had to contact where it's not been handled already, be it when we've had a cruiser involved in an accident or have to go for insurance claims. Mostly those are all turned into Connie, and then they're turned into the insurance. And really, it's someone that goes out and brokers, and we could issue those same RFQs ourselves, just like we did for auditors, or like you do for insurance. We could write the same RFQ ourselves. So we're doing the same thing for the IT. So.
Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Resolution number 17-R-69, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with Arthur J. Gallagher and Company for medical, health, dental, and life insurance, brokerage, and consultant services. Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Addington.
Good evening. As part of that same RFQ process that we just discussed with the property and casualty insurance, we also went out for the medical side, the benefit side. On June 1st is when the RFQ was dispersed from the city. We did receive 5 responses, and out of those 5 responses, a committee was formed consisting of Jared Keeling, Debbie Parks, Connie Moeller, and myself, and we determined that out of those 5, 3 met our requirements as specified in the RFQ. So as a result, we had Barker Phillips Jackson, who is our current broker, we had Gallagher, and we had Crane invited back for presentations. As a result, it was a unanimous that Arthur J. Gallagher was the highest scored based upon our needs and the presentation that they offered. I specifically wanted to look at was the resources and tools available to our employees, the web portal that's available that links directly to the carriers, and communication options. Since I've been here in the past year, I realize that education is huge. We need to educate our employees, and we need to get more information out to the employees. So what I was hoping to look for is a strategic partner that can accomplish those things. So what I'm looking for is quality customer service, availability, which equals a quick response time, resolution to issues, and a quick resolution to issues. Nobody should have to wait long if there's a problem with their insurance card. We need those resolved quickly. Increased education of benefits and communication to our employees. And what Arthur J. Gallagher offered was monthly communications and a lot of education for our employees. They will also assist with compliance functions, which takes a good chunk of staff time, which consists of COBRA, FLA, and USERA, as well as additional templates, such as letters and other forms relating to compliance. So what staff is recommending is that we enter into an agreement with Arthur J. Gallagher. It's a 3-year agreement. The cost is $25,000 per year. which is an increase over our current broker of $7,000 per year. The first year will be wash, and that is because they're going to start working for us immediately because we have to get ready for open enrollment for 2018. But we will not start being billed until January. And then our billing will be January 2018. There's also savings now from the property casualty. Since we're not renewing that contract, there will be savings for that. I do have Jacob Salinas here from Arthur J. Gallagher. Do you have any specific questions about this? But that is what we are recommending. I can answer any questions.
Any questions, comments, discussion? Council? None? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution carries 6-0. Resolution number 17-R-70, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding a bid for street resurfacing and authorizing the execution of a contract agreement. Need a second?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Mayor. This presents the results of sealed bid process for our annual resurfacing program. In addition to just resurfacing existing streets, we also included work at the Garton Business Park. This would consist of constructing concrete curb and gutter and biting asphalt on the new Drury Lane. Our bid process resulted in the three local asphalt companies bidding: Blevins Asphalt, APAC Missouri, and Jernigan Construction. Blevins Asphalt was our low bidder. For the last several years, they've pretty consistently been our low bidder. Logistically, they do have the plant closest to Republic, and hauling materials to the job site is always part of the big cost. In our exhibit, you'll see a table illustrating the street segments and the type of work that we are proposing on our street resurfacing. The work is generally milling down the edges of the asphalt along the curb line, installing a paving fabric, and then doing a 2-inch overlay. We found this process to be very successful treatment for providing a durable resurface. We've also included Hines Street from Main to Highway 60, and then Hines Street from Franklin to Highway ZZ. That eastern section is the Hines is the portion that we deferred from last year. Drury Lane, as I mentioned, is already in there. Now, I do want to introduce I don't want to say it's a curveball, but a need to be responsive. We have three streets on here: Harrison, Wildwood, and Kyle, segment 2, and we are asking to defer those. And I'll go into some explanation there. South Walnut Street, south of Elm, combination industrial and residential area, and the last several months of rainy weather, wet conditions, the industrial commercial trucks down there, a gas leak earlier this year, and last week a water main break that across the entire roadway has really just sent that road into a state of severe disrepair. And so what we are wanting to do is defer the resurfacing on Harrison, Wildwood, and Kyle, and divert those funds to South Walnut, so that we've got about a 450-foot section that needs to be rebuilt, and then we'll overlay about 1,100 feet to try to get that back into shape. Overall contract cost is not expected to change. We would reduce the quantities of milling, reduce the quantities of paving fabric, and increase the quantities of base rock and surface mix.
Any questions, discussion for Mr. Brock? None? As the resolution's written, is it okay?
That's what I'm trying to say.
I just want to make sure we don't need to change some wording in here so they don't pass a resolution.
If I would, Counselor, the way this would be implemented, you'll see a draft award letter in there. notice of award, we would adjust those quantities to reflect the changes in the type of work to be done.
This specifies the contract price.
So the way I see it, as long as the contract price doesn't change from what it is, I think we'd be okay with
Well,
it. If it does, we'd
a
have
couple
to-
of issues. We do include in our bid specifications that the city reserves the right to reduce and increase quantities. We also, we've got a clause in the contract amount that kind of caps that according to appropriations. This is not, I want to say, out of the ordinary. When we get out and direct the work, there may be slight modifications in the bid quantities, and I guess I need to stress that. We have the bid quantities, we pay on actual installed and accepted work.
It's like we're accepting the bid and the bid makes quantities, but not really locations. I think so.
Okay. Well, I wanted to applaud you for that because I just got a phone call today about South Walnut. I actually drove over there, and it is horrific, to say
It
the
is.
least.
That main break was a spiral fracture, an entire joint of pipe blew apart.
Yeah.
Our staff says that is very, very rare.
So I think it's needed to do this. So, Mr. Beckman?
Just a question on your listing, you have the recreational trail pavement at Moore Park. Is that additional paving that's going to be done over there?
Yes, that would be done. That is the existing trail. Jarrett not here tonight, but the plan is they would demolish the existing trail. We'll come back and lay a 10-foot base, and we'll actually widen that out to an 8-foot trail.
So it's not the new pavement that's just been put down around Moore Park?
No, it's the older trail that
Oh,
wraps
okay.
around to the north of the pavilion.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion for Mr. Brock? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. On to resolution number 17-R-71, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to execute a third change order for the Schuler Creek Lift Station upgrade. Sir, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry, I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second, go ahead.
Hopefully this is going to be the completion of our Schuler Creek project. Prior to the installation, there were some electrical issues, grounding issues, and due to the sensitivity of the new equipment that's installed, the existing grounding that was there is not sufficient for the new equipment to work properly, and that's basically a alarm system for our pumps, letting us know when it's time or when the motor's getting ready to break down, so we'll have a heads up on it, and we can take care of it before we do have a catastrophe. The other issues is, you're all familiar with the second sewage spill that we had there when we had the slip pipe coupling. We're going to be replacing the remainder of those couplings, and also the contractor is going to be installing a new flow meter, which got destroyed during that flooding of that issue. And there are also some restraining couplings and some restraints that we're going to do to help beef up the pipe, just in case there is any movement allowed, that the restraints on there will prohibit any additional pipe movement, and hopefully, any other future pipe breaks down there. And I'll take any questions.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council?
In your mind, this is the best route to go?
It definitely is in my mind. All the couplings in the coupling that failed, this will eliminate every one of them. We won't have any more couplings in there at type. They will be all restrained couplings, and then there will all be also secondary backup restraints, which will be anchored to the pipe and to the concrete walls inside the dry well.
I'm sure anything, so with the entire remodel or whatever you want to call it of the lift station out there, this will replace everything that we need to replace moving forward so that we don't have to worry about I'm not saying, I'm never gonna say that something couldn't happen.
Never
but
say never.
We're replacing new parts in an upgraded station, or old parts in an upgraded station to make everything new that we can.
Yes, sir, we are, and we're also taking further steps. If you have noticed in the information that we are, a lot of the nuts and bolts and part of the flanges where the paint's flaked off and we're seeing some rust corrosion. We're also going to be removing the rust, removing the erosion, and it's going to be reprimed and painted, and hopefully that will prevent anything else like this. If I had a crystal ball.
Yeah. We'd replace the parts that was getting ready to go out, right?
Yes.
Any other questions? Mr. Brock, can I ask you one thing?
Yes, sir.
And this may be silly because I'm not familiar with those pumps, or whoever can answer the question. Oftentimes, you can do non-destructive testing on some of those things to see if there's any weaknesses on parts and pieces that, work in that lift station. Is there a way to do any yearly testing, non-destructive testing, to any of that stuff to find out how it's holding up, or? It may not even be possible. I just wanted to ask the question.
There are things that we can do that, and we've had it happen before. Right now, currently under the level system, it's part of the contract here to modify. And when we have a power shift where we're going from utility power to the generator, the pumps will immediately shut off. What that causes is a reverse flow or a sudden increase of water hammer. That does test the system somewhat. We have provisions in the system to help eliminate pipe damage for that, and it's working well.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's something I do not really like to do, is, tempt fate in situations like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that could be done. I don't know if it would be recommended to do so.
Okay.
I think maybe the mayor was speaking about non-destructive testing, x-rays, or monitoring the windings. Some equipment will go into do that.
Well, some of the equipment, and that's for the windings and the motors, the electrical grounding correction should take care of that issue. We have monitors for that part. Electrical grounding should take care of that. And if we would get into x-raying pipe and pipe joints and such, you're looking at a lot of money right there.
Yeah, I'm just talking about anything feasibly that we could do that's not going to cost us, just so we could preemptively catch a problem before we get to a breaking point. So it sounds like there's already some steps in the process to do that. So those are my questions.
All right.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Seeing nothing, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to resolution number 17-R-72, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing and approving certain actions in connection with the issuance of special obligation bonds. Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, Ms. Parks.
Okay, in July, you'll remember that City Council authorized an addendum to our contract, our agreement with Stiefel, to expand the scope of services to include refunding of the Series 2010 and 2011 special obligation bonds. We are very pleased to announce that they have been working diligently on this issue for us, and they are moving at a pace. They have a schedule in mind. They would like to be able to have the finance done within the next 6 to 7 weeks, which is good because they're trying to capture some good interest rates that are going on right now. Basically, this resolution is simply authorizing Stiefel to be our underwriter so that they could go ahead with the formal contracts, and that Gilmore and Bell will be working with them as the bond attorneys. They are going to put together the documents. They have requested that they could come in and do a workshop, so I'm working with David to hopefully get that on the first council meeting in September. They'll go into depth and answer any questions for council at that time on the whole refunding will look like, and they'll have more solid numbers. I don't want to really, I know we had discussed that we would be taking money from the cash reserves that are no longer needed when we refund it and apply it to general fund debt, so that will free up some funds in the general fund. That is still the plan, but they'll come at that time with some more definitive numbers for you in the workshop and answer any questions. So today, this is just to authorize them to continue working on it and to become the official underwriters and bond attorney.
Any questions, discussion? This is in relation to the agenda item that we had relating to saving the city quite a bit of money in refinance.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's about a refinance. You know, I hate to throw out numbers, but it's probably in the proximity of $860,000 or $870,000. And so it's, why we need bond counsel is some of the stuff that we're asking and we're doing is I want to make sure that we have bond counsel. We stay within compliance of the things we're moving, and when you start moving money from one place to the other, you need counsel to make sure you stay within the guidelines. And so it's always recommended with those bonds, and everything we ask is kind of like we do with Rhonda, where we're saying, hey, can we do this with a code? Can we do this? Can we change it? We need someone to make sure we're reviewing it to stay within the boundaries. So they're doing that to get the best deal for us, and I will assure that in that work session it will talk about to make sure that we're not refinancing something that's 2 years from being paid off. A lot of this stuff will be prioritized that we'll be paying off, like the fire truck that was reissued with only 2 years left. Stuff like that will not happen in this. You'll be able to see how it's being refinanced in this next deal. So be a little bit more explained.
Very real possibility to save the city somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000 over time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Discussion? Thank you, Ms. Parks. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 6-0. On to the finance report.
Okay. Well, I'm very pleased to give you the sales tax update. As you can see, our trend has held true for 2 months in a row. We are up 4.32% for over this period of last year. We see that we have $175,573 in the general fund. That's the general sales tax. And the 0.5% transportation sales tax was $87,700. And you could read down the whole list. I know I had promised the citizens when I started that I would be putting these on the website. We unfortunately had some restructuring and we're shorthanded, but I am happy to announce by the end of the week I'll have all this data up on a regular basis on our website. So you'll see behind that sheet is the full comparison, so you can look at all the raw data that where I get the figures from. The next part of our little financial packet that you receive is an updated cash schedule. You will see that one big significant change that happened in the cash statement is underneath in the restricted cash and investments section. The sewer impact fees, we transferred those up to pay for the lift station improvements that have been going on to cover that portion. So those fees have actually been put to use in an authorized manner. So that balance has been brought down to zero. You can see we're still, general fund, the operating cash, the unrestricted amount is still hovering around the same amount, give or take $100,000 every month. So underneath our budget to action report, for this point in the year, to be on target for our budget, you should be at 58% for the month of July. These are the July budget to actual reports. So the general fund's at 59%, so you can see we're right on target. The utility fund's at 60%, so we're not that far off. The street fund, we're still a little bit under, but as you've heard from a lot of these council proposals, they're starting to do a lot of work on the Drury Street project, the Garden Business Park. And the stormwater's improvement only at 6%, but I will let you know that we have some transfers scheduled for the month of August, so at the end of August that will change significantly. The fire sales tax, unfortunately, is still showing 213%, but that's because the budget amendments were approved on August 1st, so the budget won't be changed until the August reports. So I just wanted people to know that those amendments will be added for the August statements. The Park and Recs, they're a little bit above, but they've been busy working, so they're at 69% of their expenditures. I just wanted to say one other thing I included in the packet this time is statute requires that city councils publish the semi-annual financial report. Lucky for me, I realized this, and we published it in the Springfield newsletter on July 30th. We also published it in the Greene County Commonwealth on August 2nd. So I included that in there so you know. And I'm very happy to report that Mike Cotton did not have to issue a Class A misdemeanor for me, because that's the penalty for not getting in there on time. So I would like to say that also our UB department, we have hired a new customer clerk, so make sure you say hi. Her name is Rachel, and we're very excited that she has joined our team. One last thing, we have some progress going on our request for proposals. We've been working with the subcommittee. We have scheduled presentations for our finalists, and so, well, we're still working on scheduling them, but we are starting the reference check stage, and so we are moving along, and hopefully we'll be able to bring this issue back to council hopefully next month. So, does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Any more issues with Summit?
Well, I don't want to say anything negative in public, but it's been quite an issue. We crashed quite a bit, and as you know, we lost the June bank wreck, and it took us a while to get all the data back. Because when things crash, sometimes instead of just deleting all in one section, completely, bits will be here, bits will be gone in another part, and so you have to recheck everything to make sure that there's not, a journal entry half over here lingering but it's lost in the other module. So, but anyway, we're hanging on. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Parkers.
Thank you.
Need a motion and a second to approve the finance report.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. There are no appointments or commissions at this meeting. We will move on to reports from staff. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo what Garrett was saying with Sheriff Arnott and our relationship with Greene County. I think that for him, I wish he'd got to stick around, but I know he's very busy man. But I appreciate for him to show up, and I do appreciate, Chief, that the work that went into working with him and the other agencies for the use of our jail facility, whether it's used or not utilized. I do believe it was a critical part, at least the discussion and finding some resolution, because the jail is it's a regional issue. It's not just a Springfield, Greene County. We're all in that. We need to get that resolved, and I look forward to seeing that. And I think that type of cooperation just lends to an overall resolution. I also appreciate the work with Greene County on these abatements. We're doing the citywide cleanup. We're sending out citations. We're doing different things to clean it up. But if you can't go onto a property because someone says there's nothing you can really do about it, but if that was your property, if the city can go in there and clean that up and send that into the collector after a hearing, after due process, and we know that could be cleaned up for that, so you have some answer for a neighbor that can say, hey, listen, why is this being allowed to be let go? There's junk in their backyard. They're just refusing to pick it up. This now can start moving it to a level that says, listen, we're going to come in and clean that up, and we'll be able to assess that to the taxes. And I think that's making for at least add a little bit of leverage to the code enforcement, used wisely. But I do appreciate the cooperation between the two agencies to get that done so that we can go in and clean it up. Because if it was your next door neighbor, if it was your property, you want it to be protected from somebody that's just saying, what are you going to do about it? And I'm not saying that always happens, but we do have those situations. And we are working on other ones where there's a nuisance. Speaking with Rhonda, and in the ride-along, one of the ideas that was brought up was areas where we show up with the PD on routine occasions over nuisance and how to resolve those issues. And so that's the situation that we'll be looking into a little bit further. I want to thank everybody that got out and voted. be either for or against the ballot issue for the tax collection or renewing the tax. I appreciate everyone that got out. I was actually to see that many for one issue on the ballot was a pretty good number. And so I just appreciate the work that staff has put in. And one thing that we're going to do a very good job doing is making sure that we communicate. Some of the feedback that we received is make sure that we're communicating what we're doing, that we're saying that we're doing with the money that we said we would. And that'll be critical. And that's critical in every ballot issue. And I think we need to be doing it more often with the other taxes that we've got already on the books. And so you'll be seeing a lot of signs that'll say, hey, this was funded through your quarter-cent capital improvement. But there may be other ones that are said this street was resurfaced through your transportation sales tax. I just think there'll be more marketing of that. But again, just thank you for getting out. And I thank you for the consideration and getting out and exercising your right to vote. Craig, thank you for putting all that stuff together and researching and getting the Schuler Creek lift station reviewed and bringing that to our attention so that we can take care of it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I want to start with Mr. Brock. Thank you for the Walnut Street. I had actually just gotten some call, a call today on that and went and checked it out and realized that it was in bad shape and intended to talk to you, but you beat me to the punch when you got up to the podium, and I already had a solution thought out. So thank you. I'll be overly excited to know that that's going to be done for them. Yeah. Well, that was a quick turnaround. She's looking to sell that house, and it's hard to do when the street is in such disrepair. Also, I'd like to talk about the renewal of the tax, the no increase. I also want to thank the citizens for getting out and voting, and we have committed and will commit to be transparent with those funds. Not only with what we're having now, because we've made a difference there, but we're more transparent with what we're doing with the money that we currently have. But I want to thank David or whoever came up with the idea to have a part of our website where people can track how we're spending that money, how much we're taking in, how much we're spending. So there's no smoke and mirrors, that we're taking in this amount of money and we're putting it toward those projects that we said we were going to complete. So that's important for us moving forward, is to see that we have that trust of our constituents. They know that we're going to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. And also with the abatement, when we talk about Walnut Street, there were some other issues that were brought up over the week, some addresses, and I know that it's been frustrating at times for code enforcement, and it feels like you're doing everything you can and still not making a dent in it, but you're out there working every day. I know Matthew probably feels like that sometimes, but I think working with Greene County on this situation, it's going to make it to where we can just take that next step in keeping our city looking great, looking clean, and it just goes right along with everything else we're doing to attract people, families, and business owners to this city to make it even better. And I will move on from there, and I'm going to start with Mr. Smith this week. Do you have anything, sir?
Thanks to all the staff for improving relationships all around the county, everywhere. And thanks to everybody that got out and voted. So, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ant?
I'm just going to second that. Great job on the Walnut Street. That's really exciting to hear that you got the complaint, we already have a solution. It's all about finding solutions and doing our best to make our citizens happy.
Yeah.
Great job. Thank you.
Mr. Beckman?
On the issues of the abatement, I know I had 2 or 3 issues that I've worked with Matthew on, and it's one of the things that I've seen a lot of is people, the problems are caused by renters, not by the homeowner. And this way it's going to put more pressure on the homeowners to, either work with their renters or get them out of there if they know it's going to cost them money to take care of it, because it's, when you, all of a sudden you got rats coming out of a brush pile, that gets a little nerve-wracking to people. And, but, I think the staff, on everything from the Schuler station to the streets, everything has just been stayed on top of and spending the money wisely, and the staff that went out and talked about the tax increase to people, it evidently made sense to them because it passed overwhelmingly, and that was a concern. So I appreciate everything. I am enjoying working on the RFPs, on the accounting software, and hopefully before long we'll be able to bring something that's going to be an improvement for it. Thank you.
Mr. Shears?
Without too much more to add, would like to thank the staff for always looking for ways and so forth that we can save money. this $30,000 thing tonight, those amounts of money really add up over time. At the same time, it gives, our patrons, our citizens, the idea that we are very guarded toward the tax dollar. So thank you guys very much.
Mr. Wilson?
I'll just echo what everybody else has said. I don't really have anything to add to it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Self?
So this marks about 1 year since I've been on council, to this month. So in that 1 year, I've seen changes, and it's just really exciting to see where this is going to go the next year and the year after that. And I feel that the city, whether it's through the auditing or whether it's through the stuff that Debbie's come up with, even with the summit problems, like we are taking issues, get them in front of us, we deal with it, we have a resolution, and we move forward. And so I can't stress to the staff enough that how awesome that is, because when we have something come to us, we don't want it to sit. We want it to be dealt with and on to the next. And as you grow as a city, those issues are going to keep coming. And they may be big and they may be small, but as long as we handle it up front and we take care of business quickly, the response time is going to resonate and help with the end product, which is to our citizens and business owners in town. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you, sir. I have one last thing I do want to bring up. We had a meeting this week with Ms. Luzader, and I thank you for your assistance. We're looking to not just streamline, but help make the agenda easier to follow. So once we have a public, like tonight, 3 public hearings, and then we had several other issues, and then we went back to the first reading. So we're looking at trying to change some of that, but still stay within the rules of order, so that before we get to those first readings, that we open the public hearing prior to that. So it's all done at once. So you get to hear the information from the staff member, you get to hear anybody who's for it, against it, and then we move on to the actual ordinance to deal with. So rather than having stuff, sandwiched in between that, so you got to go back and rehash everything, we just think that'll make it a little bit easier. So thank you, Rhonda, for giving us sound, clear advice on how to do those things and make it better for all of us, so we have a better understanding of what we're doing. Other than that, we will move on to, I would accept a motion, or I'm sorry, I would entertain a motion in a second to go into executive session. No further action other than announcing adjournment by the mayor shall take place after an executive session that is scheduled as the last matter on the agenda, unless otherwise stated on the agenda, or is allowed per RSO 610.02, RSMO 610.021.3, hiring, firing, promotion, or disciplining personnel. Closed session, closed vote, closed record. Need a motion in a second.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Bashirs?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. After a 5-minute recess, we will adjourn for now and go into executive session. Thank you for coming.